Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson. Guys, we got a fantastic show lined up for you tonight. But first, I want to offer my apologies. Yes, I'm so sorry about last week's episode. We ran into some tech issues, and the show had to be cut prematurely, so I do apologize. But the good news is we will be back with Aisha Patel next season. So guys will definitely want to check that episode out. We're going to make it up to you, but I definitely apologize for the inconvenience. But tonight we've got a fantastic show, and you guys are going to love tonight's guest. We're going to be talking about some things, and there's some things that you cannot talk about. There's a lot of UAP kind of news floating around that you can't avoid. But first, before we get started, I got to say we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. All right, and I see the chat. You guys are popping in the chat. We see you there, Lisa. We see you there, $6 man, $6 million man. Yes, you guys hang out and get your questions ready for tonight's guest, okay? He is a holistic transformation and purpose alignment coach and seasoned paranormal investigator. Guys, let's get a big warm welcome for Daniel Anderson.
Crowd noise, applause.
There we go. Yes, the crowd noise is there. I tell you what, Daniel, if you don't mind, do you care to introduce yourself a little better than I did for our audience?
Well, you did pretty well. I am known now as the Gen X alchemist, where I guide Generation X men basically to turn the stuff that they went through early on in life, the lead in their life, and turn it into gold now.
First of all, I love the Gen X thing because I'm a Gen Xer. So, yeah, I think that's awesome. And I definitely, a lot of Gen Xers need it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, one of the hot topics right now, and we can definitely get in because I want to talk to you about some of your paranormal experiences, especially kind of how it kind of happened for you. But I also want to jump right into this topic because the topic that we can't avoid right now, it's all over the news. It's the drone situation. Daniel, what's your opinion on what's going on?
It is honestly hard to say. From what I've heard about these drones being the size of cars, who knows if they're really drones? During COVID, it was kind of funny how the government basically came out and said, oh yeah, we've been tracking UFOs and we've been seeing UFOs. And nobody batted an eye.
It's crazy. It's weird.
I was watching that back then. Like, did they just really seriously admit that? And nobody's talking about it.
That's it. Same thing. I thought, this is nuts. I mean, they literally just told us. this is going on and nobody cares, you know.
Yeah.
I have went back and forth. It's really weird that they're not saying what's going on. And then the whole gaslighting thing, John Kirby kind of did the gaslighting thing, his first response, you know, like, come on, dude, have you been asleep? You know, I mean, what's happening? And then you do hear a lot of rumors. I'm not sure, you know, exactly what to believe, but now I do know this. There are some videos and sightings of things that clearly, you know, they're not drones. They're orbs, you know, and I have seen videos and, you know, of that. So it's really kind of hard to wonder, because when you think about the timeline and everything that's actually took place, like, you know, for the first time in our history, Daniel, we had the UAP hearings with Congress. I mean, that was enough just to blow your mind right there. You know, never in our lifetime did we ever think we would see anything like that.
Exactly.
And then you start seeing the drone. And so you're just kind of like, this is like kind of, and then you hear, are we in the middle of a PSYOP type program? Are they trying to distract us, you know, look over here while something's going on over here? So it's kind of hard to know what to think.
In my opinion, they've been doing that look over here because something bigger's happening over there forever. And that's never going to stop. You know, these things, they could be from outer space. I don't have enough information on that. They could be from China. They could be from Russia. They could be, who even knows, you know?
Well, I tell you what, it looks like we got our first question here. Chris, pull up a question there for us there, brother. We got from $6 Million Man. That's the second question. Let's go with the first question. There we go. Here, get Chris off his Sudoku, whatever he's doing over there. Here we go. But $6 Million Man, that's another Gen X thing. Only Gen Xers totally get that, and the $6 Million Man. But he wants to know, hey, Daniel, what do you think the odds are that ET are piggybacking off of this drone situation? I've thought that too, man. I have.
Honestly, I think it could very well be. I've been listening to a lot of people on YouTube, basically, that have had things like NDEs, and we're told, like, this is going to happen at this time. This is what's going to show up at the end of the year. Look out for this. And I'm a believer in it because one of my many talents is being able to communicate with the spirit realm through divination and with pendulums and things. And the amount of things that we don't know is mind-boggling. Very well could be that things like this, the ETs are trying to make it easier for us to, like, accept the truth that they really are there. Honestly, don't think that it's going to be anything like a major invasion or whatever they show in a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
But they're going to be, with how humanity is waking up spiritually and everything else, now is the time where the collective consciousness is all going to come together.
And you know, I kind of agree with you. And this is the thing that blows my mind, Daniel. You know, I've been doing this show for about a year, okay? And I've learned so much during this time. And the thing that just blows my mind, people were predicting this. They had said this was going to happen. What's happening right now, even with the drone situation, which, I mean, I'm like, my God, it's actually happening. You know, there it is. You know, so it's mind boggling to me. And now also kind of like what you said, you know, in the spiritual side of things, you know, that's real too. You know, I've had people on the show that have talked about that. Oh, we got another question here from $6 Million Man. I've been watching a lot of channeling videos from the GFL. They're saying they use discernment,
Yeah.
but also they're using this as a prep period. What do you believe? You think that's another great question? Great question. That could be possible too.
Exactly. There's what one, in every single argument they say, there's what one person says, what the other person says, and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Absolutely. I say something very similar, but I can't say right now live on the show. But the best way to hide the truth is roll it in a ball of you know what. So,
yes.
Absolutely. Great question. $6 Million Man. Guys, I see you in there. What's up, David Martin? Glad to see you in the chat. Lisa, great to see you. Great to see you guys. Get your questions ready for Daniel. Well, let's do this, Daniel, because I'm also a big fan of the paranormal and the, ghost and the spirit world. Big believer, have my, several experiences on my own. And this is something that happens to you a lot, apparently. But I tell you what, one of the biggest things I always love to hear is, because most people have these experiences as a child first. And I would love to hear, kind of what got you into this and probably your childhood experience.
All right. So what got me into it was the house that I grew up in. One of the former owners, the people that owned the house right before my parents bought it, their 16-year-old son, he ended up killing himself inside the house. And then there were some other tragedies with the woman of the house. She, right shortly after giving birth to somebody, died of cancer. And I know for sure that house had at least 3 separate entities in it, if not more. My first experience was around 8 or 9 years old. It was shortly after my first communion. And what happened was, it's kind of funny. My brother, one of my older brothers, was going to take me for some ice cream to Boy Blue, an old fashioned place. And he was waiting out in the car. I ran to grab some extra change to get a little something extra at the ice cream place. And I was walking down my front stairs, and the way it was laid out, there was a hallway, some stairs coming down. My dining room was to the left of me. The living room was to the right. And I noticed some motion in the doorway of the dining room. And right before my eyes, and this still sounds weird to me, the darkest black pair of pants that you've ever seen formed out of nothing, but not just flat. It was as if an invisible being was in it. And it was darker than anything, like I said, that I've ever seen. And it literally walked from the dining room into my living room, right in front of me, and then disappeared just as quickly as it showed up.
That is creepy.
And I was on like the 6th or 7th step. I screamed. I jumped from the 6th step, ran shoulder blocked open my front screen door, and without missing a step, somehow managed to reach around me and slam the door, and was at my brother's car by then in tears, because I'd never seen anything like that. And he laughed at me because he didn't believe that in that stuff. That was nonsense. It was my imagination. But I know what I saw. And that was not the only experience I had in that house.
So, in the crazy thing about being a child, whenever you experience paranormal and stuff like that, is like you're still trying to figure out what's reality, what's not, just, in a lot of things. And whenever you kind of experience that and you're surrounded by people who are telling you, no, these things aren't real, it can be confusing. It can be tough.
Yes.
Now let me ask you, now as an adult, when you look at these experiences, do you feel like maybe do you feel like it's people who have passed on, or do you think that you're picking up like on interdimensional type things or just other moments in time? You know, I've always wondered about that.
In my experiences, there are definitely different trains of thought. There are intelligent hauntings, which interact with you. There are residual hauntings, which is basically the energy of the beings going in a repeat loop and just kind of going through the motions of what they did when they were there. As far as interdimensional, yeah, we are, in my honest opinion, and from what I've been told in my divination, that we are, in fact, multidimensional beings ourselves. We are, when we pass on, we go to a higher level. Our bodies just get put in the dirt and we carry on because we're infinite beings.
Well, energy definitely doesn't die, and it does. Yeah, I'm a firm believer it carries on. Um, Now you said you had more than one experience there in that house,
Yeah.
and you said that you've actually seen more than one. I guess you would call being or.
Yes, I have. So the first time was the pants. Another time was during the day. I was out in my backyard with a friend of mine who at that point used to come over all the time. But after that, what we saw, he never came back. We happened to look up into one of my attic windows, and there was the face of a young boy looking out at us. I was the only one home, and we could see the boxes behind him. And he was just kind of looking at us and then disappeared. And all of a sudden, my friend was like, okay, it's time to go. See you later.
Now, do you think this was the same boy who may have killed himself there in that home?
Yes.
Okay. See, that's something else that I've always wondered. Is do you think it's like the like dark energy, bad energy that's of someone that's hanging around the place, or is it something they can't let go of?
In his case, it was something that he couldn't let go of. I'm not a firm believer that, unlike some of those TV shows,
Yeah.
Which have the initials GA,
Oh,
where
straight garbage.
everything,
I'm sorry, but yeah, straight
where,
garbage.
yes, where everything is demonic. No, that's not the case. This was just, he was just trying to get our attention, and he did it very noisily. We used to hear stomping around of footsteps when, like, I was the only one at home, or my mom was home, and we would hear things going up and down the stairs. The last time I saw a full-bodied apparition, I was with 3 of my friends, and we were standing outside about to go in. All of my siblings had moved out by then, and my parents were gone for the weekend. And I had just pulled up because I was picking up another friend. And my best friend and his girlfriend were looking through the window, and I hear her say, "Oh, I see somebody coming down the stairs. Let's ring the bell." And I'm like, excuse me, what? She's like, "I see somebody coming down the back stairs over there." And I said, "That's impossible because I'm the only one here." So I start looking through, and sure enough, there's a full-bodied, translucent white spirit that walked down the stairs. And at the time, my mom had these little antique teddy bears lining up the back stairs as decoration. And this thing just kind of stopped, turned and looked down at it, turned around, and then floated back upstairs and disappeared.
You know what? And this is the thing, because the one I saw when I was a child was it's like that. It has. I mean, I'm not saying all of them are like that, but it's kind of like what you imagine. It had like a glow to it. It was transparent. I could see through, but you could also see it. You know, it was there, and it's so strange that's it's kind of like some of the things you see on TV. You know, but I mean, it's at the same time, it's a lot different because you're actually seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, that sounds very similar to my experience when I was a kid, kind of what it looked like, with my experience, it was gliding, it had almost like a real kind of fluorescent glow to it, but it was gliding, and, it was just, blew my mind. It's something that I'll never forget is in my head. Now, I'm a firm believer in being able to contact with your loved ones that have passed. I say all the time, my parents have passed away, and I talk to them all the time. I feel like they're still with me, and you are able to communicate. You said with a lot of spirits. You do a lot of spiritual communication with that.
Yeah.
When did that kind of start happening? When did you realize that you could do this?
I started on a spiritual journey 2 years ago, and I did it to tap back into those gifts that I had of seeing spirits and all that. Honestly, I started my journey because I wanted to be a better paranormal investigator, which is a big time hobby and something that I do now. And I was on a team a couple years ago, and I started journeying inward and trying to tap into those gifts, and then started getting into like the crystals and started talking to other spiritualists and mediums and things. And then I just all of a sudden started getting into pendulums, and now basically I can take anything that dangles from a chain or a rope or whatever. I even used a grocery bag once, and it communicated with me. And it's not just a yes, no kind of thing like some people do. I can grab something and it spells out words, and I have several divination boards.
Okay.
And about 22 of these different things, and they just have conversations with me through that, like they're sitting here. I've spoken to angels, I've spoken to my relatives, I speak to my son's mother, who I speak to her now more than I did for the last 8 years of our relationship. Because she unfortunately passed away. It'll be 10 years in January. So,
well, now, as far as like, I always tell people you have to kind of like, you got to be open. You got to have your windows and your doors open to be able to, do these things. And this is something apparently you had already done with the, being a paranormal investigator. And you said you wanted to be a better paranormal investigator. Which I think that's great. You take this as serious as you do in trying to get better at it. What ways, do you have any stories maybe that you could share with us to where you communicated and you got like some intelligent, responses?
One time in particular that I can think of, I was with an old team that I was on, the first team that I decided to join. So a few years ago, we went to Ashmore Estates in Illinois, and that was a poor farm well-known haunted location, one of the most haunted locations in Illinois, actually. And I had the pleasure of being able to spend 3 days there. And we got there on a Friday night, and I'm really sensitive to the energies of paranormal things. And I could feel it a lot Friday night. And then it kind of ebbed and flowed. On Saturday that weekend, we had just gotten back from lunch and everybody else was still outside, and I walked into the building to put something in the refrigerator in there, and nobody else was there. And all of a sudden I feel something walk up to me, and clear as I'm talking to you, in my ear I hear a hello. And I look, and there was nothing but a dark room next to me. And I, even looked in the other rooms, and I looked around the corners, and nobody else was there.
Wow. See, that's the, and also hearing the vocals always get me too. Well, we got a question here from our very own, one of Tessa's very own, Jillian Leonard. I know someone who was chased out of a house by a ghost. She was floating a foot above the floor. Wow. He could hear her footsteps, even though the feet weren't touching anything. Do you know why? Now, that's interesting. Great question, Jillian. Thank you for your question.
It has to do with the energy of the spirit, and how it manifests. And honestly, it doesn't have to appear that it's walking on the ground to make noises like it's walking on the ground.
Gotcha. So I guess it's just kind of like, once again, I think there's a possibility that we're just picking up in another moment in time. Like Daniel, I'm kind of a fan of the past, present, and the future all exist at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's maybe that's just a possibility that instead of it being like a live action thing, we're hearing glimpses of the sound from that moment, and then a visual of how we're taking it in visually. But like I said, those things, like I said, my experience, it was just gliding, Yeah. So, but yeah, that's very interesting. And then also, so hearing an actual hello, that's wow.
And it's funny because it wasn't scary at all. It was a very friendly, even though it was literally like right here, right next to my ear, and just hello. And of course, I didn't have my recorder on me.
Oh yeah. You never.
That's how it happens.
It seems like that's always how it happens, or they'll suck the energy out of your battery equipment, which that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. This is one thing I do want to do when we get back, Daniel. We're getting ready to cut to a commercial break right here in a second. I do want to talk more about the paranormal side, and maybe I'd like to kind of get your opinion on if you think these things are kind of connected somehow. Maybe the UFOs, interdimensional beings, whatever we want to call them, the spirit realm, and all these things. Maybe there's a possibly connection going on there. But guys, just hang on tight. We'll be right back after this break with Daniel Anderson. We'll see you guys soon, right after these messages.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and we are here. Hey, that rhymes. Well, close enough. Welcome back to the Tinfoil Hat, and we are here with Daniel Anderson. As we were talking right before we cut to the break, there I was kind of wanting to know, maybe kind of your thoughts of like a possibility, maybe some of these things being connected. But first, right over here in the chat room, we have such a wonderful chat group here, Daniel, at Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. They show up every week, come off with some great questions. There was one way back. I don't even know if you're still over here, David Martin, but this is a little bit off, a little bit off of the topic we were just on. But I do want to clarify one of his questions real quick on the drone activity. He had mentioned, I saw a question that David Martin said that why are they using the FAA lights on the drones? Yes, great. That right there. And this is just my opinion. I want to add real quick on that. Some of the drones that were being reported that, even sound like airplanes, when they got a closer look, they weren't airplanes. And maybe they are doing it because they don't want to be detected. Maybe, it's a way to blend in. For people maybe their intentions were not to be noticed, so they would use the correct lighting. That's just kind of my opinion on that, David. If you're still in the chat, I hope you got a chance to hear that. Would that be? What about you, Daniel? What do you think? Why would they use FA lighting?
I completely agree. If it's something non-terrestrial that they, then they wouldn't want to be noticed. They would use the correct lighting that we would be used to seeing.
Okay, so yeah, it's just something that would make, totally, yes, the UFOs, definitely. That's what I think. And if there is something going on with another being working with the US government, we're not sure what's going on. None of us are. I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors everywhere from that. Of course, we all heard the rumor that they were from, Iran, some mothership in Iran, and which I don't think that's true. I think that's been disproven. But there's another one that's going around. It's pretty terrifying. I don't know if you've heard this, that it is our actual U.S. tech. And the reason why the drones are flying around at night, because they're trying to detect something radioactive that may be here on the East Coast. Type of terrorism. Let's hope that's not the case. I'll be honest with you guys. I'd rather it be aliens any day.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's keep our fingers crossed there. But maybe we'll get some answers. Most likely, we probably won't. But I will say this: even if it is U.S. tech, I am a 110% believer that our U.S. tech once upon a time was alien tech, and that's where we learned it. I'm a big believer in that. But one thing I'll say, Daniel, since I got involved kind of in this community, I always believed in the spirit world. I always believed that was a thing just based off my childhood experiences that I had, but I was always kind of on the fence on some of the other topics. And as I kind of dug a little deeper on the consciousness level of spirituality and the spirit world, and with just the paranormal supernatural world altogether, I kind of sometimes I've kind of developed the opinion that all these things are kind of related. What's your opinion on that? Do you think maybe like the UFOs or aliens, if you want to call them extraterrestrials, if that's what you want to call them, are interdimensional beings that can also contact with human beings, past lives, the spirit world? What's your take on this?
It's a very good question. I'm not really sure. I believe that like the spirits and ghosts have anything to do with aliens and extraterrestrials. I do believe that Bigfoot for sure is an interdimensional being.
I totally believe that, dude. And it took me a while to get on board with that one, because believe it or not, that was the last thing that I was like, I just don't know. And a lot of times people would say, well, of course Bigfoot exists. I mean, they find things out in the wild all the time that exist. But you know what? Bigfoot's different, guys. There's like a magical twist with Bigfoot. It's really weird. And now I kind of touch in more of the world that Bigfoot is an interdimensional type being that comes in and out of this reality at times. And the best Bigfoot video I've ever seen was, not the famous one, the Patterson, not this, but there's actually a video out there where someone wasn't trying to video anything. They were just driving down the interstate, the road, and they're going through woods. You see them go through woods. And then if you slow the footage down, you literally see the silhouette of a Bigfoot, almost like it was trying to blend, like camouflage, Yeah. And it's like it had just zapped into our existence. And I thought, wow, that's impressive. But so you're more on the Bigfoot side, but not so much with the aliens, or, I mean, if they are extraterrestrial, they may be crypto-terrestrial. They may be just here on Earth before us, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, I don't know about the link between hauntings and aliens, unless maybe, what's the name of that? The ranch out west.
Skinwalker
Ranch, yes. There seems to be a lot of connection between just a lot of weird stuff out there.
I mean, this is my rationalization. Okay, I have to rationalize stuff, and it's once again, this is where I go with it. Okay, now I always like to make the joke there are paranormal investigators, who don't like to mix. Well, I always thought it was funny because Ryan Stacy, he's the founder of Tessa. And I had him on my podcast years ago, Daniel. I used to have a podcast called The Abracadam. And I thought this was so funny. I thought this was extremely funny. But Ryan talked about how, being the UFO guy showing up to the paranormal table, and and Ryan had the opinion that these things are all connected. And the paranormal people were like, this guy's nuts. Get him out of here. So I just thought, oh my God, that's hilarious to me. But but now on a conscious level, okay, because there's two types of reality, folks. I don't care what you say, there's this reality, this matter reality, this stuff right here that we can touch. And then there's that spiritual world consciously. And I think to where, just like with you, Daniel, communicating with, the spirit world, and, those things exist. And it's almost, I believe it was it the philosopher Plato? I may be wrong here. Okay. But I do know it was a famous philosopher that basically said, if you can imagine it, it either has to exist or it can exist. So that shows you the power of what we can do. So I'm kind of on that take at it. I think we do got a question here from $6 Million Man, Chris, if you'll pop it up real quick. Danny, I believe that Bigfoot is what the original hominids of this planet evolved into through a different branch that wasn't intervened by the Anunnaki. Did I say that right? Possibly. What do you think, Daniel?
Part of me wants to believe that some of these sightings, I mean, anything is possible. There could be even some like surviving somehow, like species of Neanderthal, or, and even in the Bible, it talks about giants.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
they've been here, they've been around, and it's like, if people say, well, why can't we see them, or why don't we see them? Try looking for a deer that's 2 feet in the woods.
Good luck. There are deer hiding in the field right that you probably walk by every day, and you have no clue. That's true. That's a great point. I think, who knows? Like I said, I've always been, not always, not anymore. I used to be on the fence with the existence of Bigfoot, but now it's a lot of things are likely. This is where I'm at, Daniel. Dude, I feel like we're on an episode of Scooby-Doo, but no one's wearing a mask at the end. It's all real. It's crazy pants, folks. This is a crazy time to be alive.
Absolutely.
It's just nuts. Well, let me do this. Because like I said, I do know the paranormal is kind of your specialty. And, what is one of the, you said that we'll get a little personal here, a little on the, because this is the one thing I do love about this is being able to communicate with loved ones.
Yeah.
Okay. And, if everybody, I do think some people are a little more sensitive than the others, or more in touch with it at least. And you are definitely one of them that is more in touch with it. You said that you communicated with your son's mother, and you said you communicate now more than ever. But what are some of those experiences like, if you don't mind sharing it?
It's kind of unusual story. One of the things that I found out that I'm tasked to do with my spiritualism, my mediumships, and my abilities is that I have to help souls that are stuck in purgatory cross over to heaven. And the first one that I had to do was my son's mother. She committed suicide 10 years ago. And I know for a fact that she was possessed by some kind of demonic entity 20 some years ago, maybe more, because she completely changed. She like had kind of sleep paralysis and a night terror and woke up screaming. And when I woke up, I felt the presence of something absolutely evil in her room. And after that point, our relationship changed. She turned heavily to drugs. She had tried to commit suicide a bunch of times. We had tried so hard to have our son. And once we finally had him, she, up and left me, but that's a different story. And she really treated him very poorly. And when the demons finally got to her and she pulled the trigger on killing herself, I know she was lost somewhere. And during one of my divination things, they had said to me, you need to find her. You need to get her away from the being that she's with. And then on a certain day, you need to go and collect her from where she's hiding and get her back in with her mom, who was in heaven now too. And so I ended up taking off of work the day that I was supposed to go, and I went to a local nature area by my house, and I sat on a bench surrounded by trees, and I pulled out my pendulum and I called her over. And first I called her mom to me, and I felt her mom come sit next to me. And then I called her over, and then I was overcome with emotions because it was like they were sitting there and reunited after 5 years. And it was just a very powerful, energetic moment. And then I said, okay, it's time for you to go. All is forgiven. You need to go home now. And right after that happened, I kid you not, a big beam of sunlight shone through the trees and like lit me up. And I had asked for some kind of sign to know that for sure it really happened and it really worked. And I asked for doves to be sent. So after I left there, I'm driving down the road to go to a gas station, and 2 doves flew right in front of my car.
Oh, wow.
And then I get to the gas station and I drive through the car wash there. And I notice a bird fly into a tree, and there were 2 more doves building a nest right there.
That is awesome, man. That is awesome. I love hearing those kind of stories.
So now she comes and talks to me, and at first she would come to me saying how sorry she was for everything, and talking to Sean, our son, and wanting me to tell him that she's there with him and she's guiding him now, and she was sorry for how she treated him. And yeah, so
Well, let me ask you this real quick, Daniel, because I tell people all the time, I communicate with my mother and father. They show me signs and stuff that they're around and that they're listening. Do you have any advice for anybody who may be listening that has lost a loved one that is, wanting to communicate?
Yeah, don't be afraid to talk to them. They are around you at all times. I have a grandpa that I hardly knew that stands behind me pretty much 24/7. I've had plenty of psychics tell me, "Oh, I see him. He's right there," and I feel him like touching me on my shoulder sometimes. But yeah, just talk to him, and if you want to hear them talk back, look for signs. Look for repeating numbers. Look for familiar scents. And really, the way it can work too is you talk to them, but then just go into a meditative state, quiet your mind, and that way you can hear them.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned repeated numbers. That's interesting. What do you maybe mean by that?
Our guardian angel sends us signs in the form of numbers. So here's a quick example. See, I'm wearing a brace. I had massive back surgery on November 11th. It was supposed to be on December 4th, but things got canceled. So I was bumped up to 11/11 at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I was taken to the OR at 11/17, which 11/17 is my birth date. So before the surgery, I was already feeling that I was already healed. I had a discectomy, I had bone removed, and 2 of my bones fused. And I recovered almost immediately after it, and I really believe that it has to do with the angel said the time is now. Here are these numbers. You can look up the meanings of different numbers, and if you see them all the time, it's signs from either loved ones or your guardian angels.
Wow, that is cool. That is cool because there's actually numbers that I see more constant. So I'm going to have to look into that and pay close attention to that. And one of our viewers here, $6 Million Man, he said he had C-spine on November 21st. So, well, I hope both you guys are healing up and feeling better. And well, let's do this, Daniel. Before we get off here, first of all, I want to say, man, you have been fantastic, a great guest with some really interesting, cool stories. But where can the viewers and the listeners find out more about you?
They can check me out on my website at CoachDanielAnderson.com, or they can follow me on LinkedIn at Daniel Anderson, HolisticTransformationCoach.com. And also my YouTube channel is youtube.com at the Soul Searchers Society.
Okay, cool. The Soul Searcher Society. Well, I tell you what, like I said, these episodes do go by so fast, and and I'm sure you've got so many more stories to share. We would love to have you come back on here and tell us some more. But once again, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. You were great.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to Lisa, $6 Million Man, David Martin, Tessa's very own Jillian. Where are you at? You still there, Jillian? Thank you guys so much for the great questions tonight, guys. And once again, I want to apologize for last week's episode, but we will be back. We will be back next month, January 7th, with a brand new episode, a brand new season, and with a lot of exciting guests lined up. You guys are going to love it. It's going to be the best season ever. Yes. If you guys have not done so, be sure to head over to Patreon at Heed the World and show us a little bit of love. Make a little small, I think it's like $4, a little donation, get you access to some really cool articles by Ryan Stacy. Also, and then other guests, other people, donate, articles there to the experiencersupport.org. If you guys have an experience and you would like to find out what's going on, contact Ryan Stacy. He can definitely help. Check out Jillian. She can help over experiencersupport.org. That's what they do here. They kind of help you out with your experiences. It's a safe place. And also, keep up with these drones, man. I don't know what's happening. I've gotten a lot of messages. People have contacted me, asking me what do I think. And, day to day, it kind of changes. Worst case scenario, I think could be us, could be the bad guys. And, there's something about to happen. Best case scenario, it is extraterrestrials. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Who knows what's going to happen next week? Things just, 2025 is showing up. And, what everybody is predicting is that early 2025 is going to be nuts. There's going to be a lot of things go down. So who knows? Our next guest, folks, may be an extraterrestrial. Who knows? Wouldn't that be wild? But it wouldn't be, I wouldn't put anything past this. But anyways, like always, guys, we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Guys, this has been a fantastic season. I will see you guys January 7th. Let's pack it out. Bring your questions. Get them ready. And let's keep the normal paranormal, folks. And I will see you guys next year. All right. That does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest. And a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious, heed the world, and keep the paranormal normal. I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and this has been Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.